Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So, this month of March is quite heavy for everyone because in this month we all have exams. Why I'm saying we all have exams because our kids have exams, and parents are busy guiding their kids how to study, when to study, please study. Teachers are busy guiding their students with all the insights that they have to pour and all the insights that they have to give to their students about how they can attempt, what they should prepare, how they should write in the papers, right? So, the crux of the situation is that when a child has to give an exam, the child has to be more accountable for it. But what happens is the opposite. The parents start taking stress, the teachers start taking stress, and all that stress is transferred to the children, right? I'm here today to talk about this exam stress and what are the simple tips and tools that you can actually follow to help your children with so that they can smoothly sail through this little period of stress, we can say, because it adds a lot of burden. They have to prepare a lot in a less amount of time, right? So, before I dig deep into it, what I'm going to share with all of you, I just want to inform that I will be talking about a little biology behind it related to our nervous system, and I will be again clarifying the terms to you with the help of a little diagram that I have prepared for all of you so that you can understand what I'm talking about. To start with, whenever we introduce a new concept to children in schools, whether you are teaching them at home or they are learning at school, right? So, whenever you introduce a little concept to them, what happens in your nervous system, right? How your nervous system perceives that. So, the information that we give to children or the concept that we teach children, that is encoded in a group of neurons. Now, what are neurons? The nerve cells, okay? So, it is encoded in a group of neurons which are further stored in a part of the brain that is known as hippocampus. This part of the brain is responsible for storing the short term memory, right? So, whatever information, like for example, you just told me your phone number and you have asked me again after a minute that can you tell me my phone number again? I will be able to tell you, right? Because that is, but if you will ask me that phone number again after 2 days or 3 days, I may forget. Why? Because I have stored that information only temporarily in that particular part of my brain, which is known as hippocampus. Okay. Now, where is this part located? So, if I show you here, this part, this colored part that you see, this part is known as hippocampus, and it is further the part of another part, major area of our brain, which is known as limbic system. Okay, so here, this is responsible for your short-term memory, or we can also say that it stores information temporarily. But for that information to get converted into exact learning, when we say that we have learned a concept or we have learned something, it has to be transferred to the neocortex part of your brain, which is this part of the brain, right? And here, the information that gets stored, that is also labeled as your long term memory. Okay, so the whole process of learning, how does it work? First, the information gathers as your short term memory, then through the different tools and techniques and the time that your nervous system take to process that information, that gets converted into your long term memory. So, what is the benefit of long term memory? So, in the long term memory, when there is something, you are able to recall that and retrieve that or produce that information even after a duration of time or after a given duration of time. Okay, now since we have understood the two parts of the brain that we are going to focus on, that is the hippocampus, which is actually the short term memory storage area, and the neocortex, which actually is the long term memory storage area of your brain. Now I'm going to talk about the three tools, or you can say the strategies that you can follow during your exams times also, and a bit prior to your exams also, which can actually help you attempt your papers successfully, nicely, and you can score well. Okay, so after we have understood this, that you have to have a connection and you have to make your temporary memory a permanent memory, right? What we need to do, first thing, I will be talking from the perspective of students only here, right? So, students are supposed to do retrieval practice. Retrieval means we also call it recall. Okay, so whatever you have learned or whatever you are preparing for your exam, suppose you have a science exam tomorrow and you have prepared your two chapters for that, for example. Okay, now how will you get to know that those two chapters you have grasped so nicely that you will be able to write any answer to the any question asked tomorrow? That will happen only when you will recall the concepts that you have learned. Now, how you can recall? You can take a quiz over those concepts. You can use flashcards. You can use some images to recall the concepts. You can just attempt some quick questions from some sample papers or some extra questions which are available online, or if you have your worksheets with you, right? So don't go over and over reading the same content again, because that will not be of help. Now you have to work on the application part of that content, and you will be able to do that only when you give an opportunity to your brain to recall that. Okay, and recalling is done in different modes. So, as I told you, you can take a quiz or a flashcard or an image identification and then covering a question, or maybe some random higher order thinking skill question based on the same concept you can attempt. Right? What is the second tool? The second tool is interleaving. Interleaving means when you mix up the concepts that you learn, right? For example, like in mathematics, if you are learning, if you are practicing multiplication, okay, now you practice multiplication, the sums of multiplication, the same kind of sums of multiplication. That's okay. You have learned a skill to multiply the numbers, right? But now you have to apply that skill to different scenarios so that you are able to attempt different questions asked in the question paper. Okay, for that, what you can do is you can apply that concept to some word problems. You can apply that concept to some case study questions, wherein you are given few questions and you have a case study and then you are solving them, right? So you should have this kind of mindset that once you have learned a skill, you should be able to apply it to different scenarios of the same subject, or you can also use different subjects to strengthen that skill of yours. That is why we introduce or we stress a lot on integrated teaching learning in our classrooms, because no subject area is completely isolated. Okay, there is a lot of connect of logic in science, there is a lot of connect of literature in social science, there's a lot of connect of social science in mathematics, right? So everything goes hand in hand. So wherever you encounter, like suppose, like whenever, most of the times these case study questions are framed like this only, wherein they give you a case scenario and it may not give you the exact subject area from which it is taken, but you have to apply the same skill. Okay, so you can look out for these kind of questions to practice so that you can strengthen that concept which you have learned. Okay, last but not the least is the review that you give to yourself. So once you have done your syllabus, now what? Now you need to revise that and you have to give yourself a small test based on the same, right? So for that, you have to give a proper gap. It's not that just now I learned something and just now I take a test. Okay, you can give a time gap so that you also understand that after this much of gap, how much I'm able to recall. So it is a self test that you give to yourself. So this is also very good practice that you can do during your exam days, during your preparation leaves, or if you have prepared, if you are preparing the syllabus prior to exams, then also it is a very good practice. But along with all this, you have to make a proper schedule. You have to manage your time very efficiently so that you are able to do all these things in a proper manner. So whenever you give yourself a review, give a time gap, maybe a day's gap, or if you want to do it on the same day, you can give few hours gap between when you learned and when you are taking a test for yourself, right? So these were the three tips that I wanted to share with all the students, those who are going to give exams now in the coming days. Another thing I talked about is time management. So please make a schedule that what you are going to do and when you are going to do. Okay. Another thing is, do not skip your meals and sleep. So make sure you keep yourself hydrated. You do mindful eating. So whenever you sit down for eating, please don't keep your books on the side and looking in the books and then eating. Have mindful eating. Then have a good time to take a nap in the afternoon and go to bed on time at night, so that you all are refreshed for the next day and you all are ready to give your exams. I hope that this video you all will find useful, and if yes, please share with your friends. And I request all the parents and teachers who will be watching this also to reiterate the same things to their students and children so that they can apply and do well. Till then, stay happy, stay blessed, and all the best for your exams. And I'll see you again with another informative video. Bye bye.